Hi, my name's Diane Ghiglietti. I'm with Mascus.com. Welcome to the Internet, Leveraging for Profit, JDUG 2013. So who is Mascus and why are we experts on the Internet? Well, we were founded 13 years ago as an online marketplace for heavy equipment. We're older than Google and Facebook. We're owned by a Finnish-based company, Alma Media, and we were born as an online-only product, so our business has been built around leveraging the Internet from its very inception. Most of our products and services are a result of dealer problems that needed to be solved. So with offices in 44 countries around the world, we have some global technology resources that are unmatched. As I mentioned, Mascus is part of Alma Media, a Finnish-based company. We're one of the many verticals of Alma Media in their digital sector. A little background on Mascus and what we do in case you're not familiar with us. We're an online marketplace for used heavy equipment, and as a customer of Mascus, your equipment is visible around the world and translated in 40 plus languages and over 160 different currencies. This really makes it easier for you to communicate with the international marketplace. We're a proud John Deere Max partner, so you can take the equipment you have on Machine Finder and with a few clicks of the mouse, have it integrated onto the Mascus site without any double input, double duty, so to speak. Today, my goal is to show you some of the ways you can leverage the internet for your business. We're going to cover some best practices for inventory on the web, websites, social media, and more. But first, let's take a look at this image. So here we have an instantly recognizable American product that's been around since 1912, the Oreo cookie. The Oreo cookie is not unlike John Deere as a product. It's been around for a very long time. Again, instantly recognizable. And back in 1912, the most effective way to reach the audience for Oreo Nabisco was print. As you can see here, there's a nice print image of a woman on the phone talking about how she must have an Oreo sandwich for dessert. Obviously a dated message and something that probably wouldn't really work in today's world. Here we're flash forwarding to the 50s and reaching out using the most cutting edge technology of the time, which was TV. Obviously this message wouldn't necessarily work today, even though the product and the brand hasn't changed a great deal in over 100 years. This really does exemplify how the product message and method of delivery really does need to change with the times.
Ride with the Nabisco pony. Reach for Nabisco. Harder! Reach for Nabisco. The bright red seal on the package end means there's mighty good cookies inside, my friend. It's fun living on a ranch, but who's having the most fun? He's riding a pony, but they're eating Oreo cookies. Delicious Oreo cream sandwich. Each Oreo's really two cookies, you know. Two chocolatey cookies with a luscious cream filling in between. The most and the creamiest filling of all. Oreo cream sandwich.
I'm a lazy fella if I had my way. I'd lie down under a tree all day. A very special kind of tree that had Oreo growing where the leaves should be. Oreo cream sandwich.
So as many of you know, during the 2013 Super Bowl, there was a power outage right after the halftime show. And Oreo Cookies made a really well-timed tweet that made headlines the next day. And it was basically, you can see the image here, power out, no problem. You can still dunk in the dark. And it's got that nice little highlighted picture of the Oreo cookie. So the point being is that even this 100-year-old brand can utilize the most current and modern methods of marketing, and we want to tie that together with John Deere, that you too can use the most modern methods of advertising and marketing, which is the internet right now, for your inventory and for your business. And we hope to show some examples of that now. So we're going to take a look at these next few slides, and it just kind of gives you an idea of what's happening on the internet on any given day. So we know the internet is exploding and continues to grow in just astronomical numbers. This slide shows you how in 2000, 361 million people were using the internet in the whole world. Just to give you an idea of what that is compared to today, which is over 2 billion. In 2000, that 361 million is barely two-thirds of the size of total users on Facebook today. It's just an unbelievable growth in just 10 years, and of course this is using U.S. Census Bureau information. I'm sure those numbers are much higher now in 2013. So the contrast of these last few slides really does say it all. Yet our industry is still convinced that the majority of our budget should be spent on print. It's really a mystery to me. But the proof is there. You're all here because you recognize that the internet is a viable medium to reach your audience. But how can you best leverage the medium, harness the power, so to speak? So let's try to get to it. So again, what we hope to accomplish is to really, maybe reinforce some things that you may already know, inform and educate you on some things you might not know yet, and of course give you a better roadmap on how to best utilize the internet for your business today. So I think we can probably all agree that the advertising methods used for that John Deere on the left side of the screen should be very different and look very different than the advertising methods used for that John Deere on the right side. The equipment and the technology and the available resources to us have changed a great deal in the last 100 and more years, so we need to take advantage of that. So now we're going to talk about the most important possession each of you as dealers have when it comes to your online presence, and that's your inventory online. So done correctly, your inventory should be managed in-house in a tool that you can control and pushed out to various portals. And as a result, it will drive traffic back to your inventory and ultimately your website. So what are the guidelines? Where do we start when it comes to best practices for your inventory online? Okay, so kind of a controversial image, but something you probably have seen before. Two reasons I chose this photo. A, to get your attention and to make sure everyone was awake for the meeting that we had. My presentation was at 8 a.m. But more importantly, I really want to illustrate how descriptive a photograph can be. How we're captivated as human beings by pictures and images. We are a visual society, and there's no denying that. Part of what we do when we're advertising is to create a visual picture for the prospect. And this image just proves how the power of a well-done picture can really say a lot. And I think that, again, that's why I chose this photo. So most inventory management tools have room for a lot of pictures, and I highly recommend that you utilize them all. The worst sin is to not provide any pictures. Your ad will be passed right over for listings that are online with photographs. And then the second worst sin is to only have one or two pictures. You want to take a bunch, show the flaws, bring it out into the open if there's something wrong with the equipment, especially if the equipment is priced accordingly. You want to make sure that you're pointing that out so it makes that pricing even more legitimate. Show the authenticity by showing the serial number and take pictures from every angle. The first picture should be the money shot, as I call it, the best photograph that displays the equipment as a whole. Also, take the picture in front of your store, preferably with the name of your store visible, like in front of a sign of some kind. That picture is yours. Make it so. When you have a photograph online, it has indication of where it originated. That becomes your property. No one else can reuse that photograph. And every money shot should look consistent. That first photograph should look the same with the same angle on every piece of equipment that you have. So I highly recommend that you develop a system and a standard for your photographs. It's important. If you aren't taking good quality pictures of your equipment, then you're doing your business a big disservice. And, I was kidding around. We're not here to shame you, but shame on you if you don't have good pictures. It's really one of the most important things that you can do for your business. Invest in it. Another thing that we want you to really make sure that you're putting on all of your listings is a price. don't think for a minute that you're going to wind up forcing a phone call by not advertising a price. That's kind of an old-fashioned notion that may have worked when you had a more captive audience, 20 or so years ago. But today we have way too much information at our fingertips. So unless you have a high demand, one-of-a-kind piece of equipment, don't expect to prompt a phone call without a price. Expect to be passed right over for someone who has the information the user needs to make a decision. And in addition to that, every detail should be displayed. This is your virtual sales rep. If one of your reps forgot to tell the prospect something about the equipment in their walk around, they would have failed you, just like if you leave out details in your listings. Utilize the fields given to you. Don't get sloppy and type it all into the additional info box. This isn't going to benefit you from a search engine optimization standpoint. And if that word is foreign to you, don't worry. I'm going to go into details on that in just a moment. But I really want you to utilize all of the fields for the information and the details on the equipment. Very, very important. We talked about how precious your inventory is as a resource for you, but so are the leads that come in on that equipment. Your online leads are a precious, precious resource and should be treated as such. The most efficient dealerships that Mascus works with have a designated individual to handle just the online leads, at least the first point of contact for the prospect. You can always distribute the leads appropriately based on geography and territories and things like that, but just make sure that those online leads are responded to quickly. Remember, they're online with access to hundreds of your competitors' listings and thousands of pieces of equipment. It's the old adage, if you snooze, you lose. So put a system in place. Again, make sure that someone is at least responding to that lead, even if it needs to be then turned over to someone else. It's really key to your success with your online listings. So I mentioned the word search engine optimization a few slides back. I'm sure you guys have heard that terminology before, but what does it really mean? I'm including a video in this that explains SEO, and it's one of the best I've seen. It really gives it in layman's terms exactly how it works, and it kind of gives you a good picture of how you can utilize it to your best advantage. So go ahead and take a look at that.
Imagine for a minute that you're a librarian, but not a normal one. You're a librarian for every book in the world. People depend on you every day to find the exact book they need. How do you do it? You need a system. You need to know what's inside every book and how books relate to each other. Your system needs to take in a lot of information and spit out the best answers for a patron's questions. It's not an easy job. Search engines like Google and Bing are the librarians of the Internet. Their systems collect information about every page on the web so they can help people find exactly what they're looking for. And every search engine has a secret recipe called an algorithm for turning all that information into useful search results. Now, if you own a website, search results matter. When your pages have higher rankings, they help more people find you. The key to higher rankings is making sure your website has the ingredients search engines need for their recipes. This is called search engine optimization, or SEO. As it turns out, most of the big ingredients are known. Let's take a look. First, words matter. Search engines account for every word on the web. This way, when someone searches for shoe repair, the search engines can narrow results to only the pages that are about those words. Second, titles matter. Each page on the web has an official title, but you may not ever see it because it's in the code. Search engines pay a lot of attention to page titles because they often summarize the page like a book's title. Third, links between websites matter. When one web page links to another, it's usually a recommendation, telling readers this site has good information. A web page with a lot of links coming to it can look good to search engines. But some people try to fool the search engines by creating or buying bogus links all over the web that point to their own website. Usually, search engines can detect when a site has a lot of them, and they account for it by giving links from trustworthy sites more weight in the recipe. Fourth, the words that are used in links matter too. If your web page says, Amazon has lots of books, and the word books is linked, Search engines can establish that Amazon.com is related to the word books. This way, when someone searches for books, that site will rank well. Lastly, search engines care about reputation. Sites with a consistent record of fresh, engaging content and growing numbers of quality links may be considered rising stars and do well in search rankings. These are just the basics, and the recipes are refined and changed all the time. Good SEO is about making sure your website has great content that's supported by the ingredients that search engines need for their recipes. I'm Lee Lefevre, and this has been Search Engine Optimization, explained by Commoncraft. Learn more about SEO at Search Engine Land.
As described in the video, Google, Yahoo, Bing, they all like fresh and new content. Photographs and images also index well, and the fields on most inventory management tools are indexed and optimized specifically for search engines. That's why when I was mentioning about your inventory and the details that are needed, it's important to fill out as many of those fields as possible so that those Google bots will see the details of that relevant content. Video is the latest realm of online content that you could utilize. Not only is it great and entertaining way to describe the equipment, it's very SEO friendly. So video content typically shows up higher on the page in search results. But most importantly, you want to keep it fresh. If you've got old inventory online, I always recommend that you take it down, add some new pictures, update the details on it, and put it back up on the web so that it kind of fools Google into thinking that this is brand new equipment. It'll improve the search engine results and the user experience. That guy shopping for equipment will be more engaged if you've got some current information on the equipment. So the next area that we're going to cover is social media. Should you or shouldn't you? There's a lot of options out there, and I definitely have my opinions on which you should be focusing on. But this slide kind of gives you a nice rundown of all the different social media outlets out there and kind of what they mean. There's a little explanation next to each of the different social media venues. So go ahead and take a look at that, just a little ditty on social media. So of course then the question becomes, who is going to manage your social media? Hopefully not this kid. So I always recommend that if you're delving into social media for the first time, please don't give it to a young family member who likes surfing the net. It's really important that your social media content relates well to your audience. Outsourcing to a professional company is a good way to go in the beginning. If you do have a marketing department, identify if you have some resources there that you could utilize for social media. Some rules of thumb for activity in my book: be careful that you aren't overexposed, but also make sure that your posts are being seen on a regular basis. So I want you to think of social media as another method of driving people to your inventory and to your website, a means to an end, so to speak. I think too many businesses don't understand the value of social media. I personally think every relevant business should be using Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter consistently. And that may change. That may be different over the next few years. There's some social media sites like Pinterest and Instagram and things like that that are becoming more and more popular. But the two most used and effective mediums for business, in my opinion, are these three. And again, you're creating a place for people to learn about your business and then drive them back to your website, which is basically your online showroom. So if there's a way to bring people and march them into your store, wouldn't you be doing it? This is the same concept. And it can be done effectively with a little bit of practice. Another rule of thumb for social media is to make it most effective is if it's entertaining, funny, or informative. I always try to stick to the informative and the educational side of things. You know, we're not comedians. It's best to stick with the educational stuff. And then there's also opportunities too where you can also give news about your business. You can do contests to drive people to register and like you on Facebook or follow you on Twitter. So there's some fun things you can do too to create some engagement with your prospects and customer base. So now we're going to talk about your website in general and some of the best practices there. One of the first things that you should do is make sure that you're registered for Google Analytics to monitor your site. There's some great information there. It shows you not just the number of visitors, but the demographics on those visitors. It shows you the number of unique visitors, and you can also set it up to show what sources your visits are coming from. So if you are using some social media or other websites to drive traffic to your website, you'll be able to track it here. And of course, keep your content updated and relevant. That's very important. I like it when you talk about the company and the history and show some pictures of people that actually work there. I've seen too many websites that don't actually show any evidence of a person working there. There's no names on it. There's no pictures of the employees. There's not even an email address that's associated with the person. It'll say info@abcdealer.com. So make sure that you are showing that there's a human aspect to your business on the web. And then, of course, you want to make sure that it's easy to navigate. I always recommend getting a friend or relative that's outside of the industry to take a look at it and give you some feedback. And find out, what is their first impression? What would be the first impression of someone coming on your site? And how would you want your lobby or showroom to appear to a visitor? Because that's really what it is. It's the lobby of your showroom, of your dealership. So when it comes to your website, what are some pitfalls to avoid? I'm seeing a lot of, I'm calling it the free website concept, where an advertiser is providing you with a free website, and I put free in quotations there on purpose. It's free typically as long as you're spending money on advertising or something else. My question is, what happens when you cancel your ad with them? Again, this is your dealership, this is your online showroom, and to have it at the mercy of your advertising really doesn't seem like a good idea to me. I say be in control of your inventory and your marketing and of your website. Some of the things that you want to check into as well, a lot of these sites that are free, it's showing your equipment in what's called an iframe. And if your equipment is in an iframe, it's not going to be beneficial to you from a search engine optimization standpoint. Or in other cases, you'll see the inventory is actually a link that's redirected to your vendor's website. In both of these cases, all of that, remember that precious resource we talked about, your inventory, all of that SEO benefit that goes with that is now directed to your vendor. So it's definitely, there's a price to pay in not taking advantage of the SEO benefit for your inventory. So I really would ask you to take a look at that and rethink that if those two things, one of those two things is happening currently with your website. So here we've got a good example of what the website should look like to Google. On the left, you're going to see an image of what the viewer sees. On the right is how Google sees a website. Both are examples of how a clean, aesthetically pleasing site looks, as well as how a well-indexed site looks to Google. Each page has a title, as mentioned before from that SEO video. Those titles should be relevant to the content of the website. In this case, it's used construction equipment. The words on the site should be visible not only to the user but to Google. And again, it should be relevant on your first glance to the type of business that it is. If we didn't have any images on this website, it would still be clear what they do for a living, what this business is all about. And that's how Google looks at things. There's also ways to code pictures and things like that. If you're going to include a photograph, name the photograph to its relevance. So if you have a picture of a piece of equipment, say what that piece of equipment is instead of just calling it JPEG number 346, so that it's all relevant and looked at by Google or Bing or Yahoo. So here we have an example of something that isn't so great. In this case, the company has a blog on their homepage that has no content. So not only is that bad from a Google standpoint, it's also not such a great user experience. Also, if we took away the pictures on this website, we would not even know what they're selling. This is a good rule of thumb for how Google sees your site. If you didn't have any visuals on the first page, could we even tell what you were selling? And you can see they've got some titles along this left-hand side that'll direct you to a page. And again, it just has no relevance to their business. I can't imagine anyone really knowing what to do here unless there was the picture of this wheel loader. So it's important to make sure that everything is clear, not only on the left-hand side type image, but also on the right-hand side, that relevance to Google. So the next area we're going to cover is mobile web. I would guess that a lot of you have smartphones, and I'm just curious if you've ever shopped or browsed websites on your phone. I know I use it a lot. I have an iPhone, and I'm constantly looking things up, whether it be in a business situation where I need to look up a business or I need to find out information or statistics. I use it in that case, and of course in social situations where we might be having a debate and I'm on Safari looking up information on my web browser on my phone. I use it quite a bit, and that seems to be the trend. So the question is, how important is it for your website to have a mobile version? How important is mobile at all? And will anyone ever buy a piece of equipment from their phone? And do your customers use smartphones? These are all great questions. So here's a little fun fact. The most expensive item ever sold via eBay's mobile app was a 1985 Piper Malibu airplane for $265,000. Does that happen every day? Probably not, but it does show the trend, and people definitely are searching and looking at the mobile version of websites more and more. So here's some facts on smartphones worldwide. Currently, there's just over 1 billion subscribers to smartphones worldwide. And by 2018, that's going to triple to about 3.3 billion. So the evidence is there that this is becoming more and more of a way for people to connect. I think the most compelling information that you'll see on this slide is the fact that developing nations aren't really even investing in traditional web networks anymore. Those cultures just aren't sitting at desks in front of computers. They're purchasing far less expensive smartphones, and it's less expensive than trying to develop the traditional web market. And again, here's some more statistics for you to look at when it comes to mobile. But I think the most compelling thing is that they're predicting that by 2015, mobile web will actually be bigger than desktop web. And again, I think you're probably figuring out by now that these slides are kind of building the case that having a mobile version of your website is going to be important if you want these people to find you. And of course, we practice what we preach. We're showing you here in this slide the mobile visits and how they've increased in the past year, and it just shows that trend. I mean, these are, again, we're a heavy equipment website, so this is your audience, and our mobile visits have increased by 279% this past year. Okay, so let's wrap it up. Let's look at the summary of what we've talked about today. Okay, so the most important things from today: your inventory is your most prized possession. Make sure it's in your control and you're managing it. The web is your virtual showroom, so make sure that you're presenting it just like you would your very own dealership in person. The information on each piece of equipment is your virtual salesperson, so show the details, show the price, show lots of pictures, give as much detail as you can. Yes, on social media, try to get something in place, start small and build on it. And then of course, build an easy to navigate website and make sure you're leveraging the best search engine optimization benefit for you and your dealership, not one of your vendors. And then finally, get on that mobile bandwagon. It's going to be growing, and you don't want to have to catch up in a year or two. You want to be on the program now. So at this point, if you do have any questions, or if you'd like us to take a look at your site and determine if your inventory is getting the best SEO benefit, we'd be happy to do that for you. My contact information is here, as well as the main number. Please feel free to contact us. I know this is going to be made available to you on the JDUG portal, and we're also going to be sending it out to the attendees of the JDUG seminars. So again, if you've got any questions, we look forward to hearing from you. And we had a great time at the show. Thank you so much for everyone's visits and positive feedback on our time at our first JDUG conference. We had a great time. Thanks so much, and we look forward to hearing from you guys.